Hey viewers, you're in for a treat. Dr Sarfatti was asked to write a CIA report on how UFOs work, not if they're real. Dr Sarfatti is going to share that report in full with you here on this channel for the first time in the world today. First of all, I have to say legally it's completely declassified by the American government, so I can share it with you, worldwide. People all over the world are now going to see it. And Dr Sarfatti really wants to reach out to you, the people who didn't fully understand Jack's amazing theory. So for the CIA, he also had to summarize how UFOs work. And here's some extracts from it today. On YouTube, I can only show you the document and read it out. On Patreon, I'll share the entire document as a PDF. I would do it for YouTube, but YouTube is a film channel. Patreon, you can share pictures and text documents. So I'm not trying to restrict it from YouTube viewers. It's just easier for me to share on my Patreon account. Oh, and by the way, you can join the Patreon account here for free. And that's a new thing that Patreon have started to get people off other channels like YouTube, to actually have a non-censored, non-commercial, non-advertising and open discussion channel, which is free from all the commercial restrictions that Google and YouTube obviously has, because that's how they make money. So I'm telling you, you can go there today for free. And if you want to make a small contribution, you can, but it's up to you. Here on YouTube, you just have to sit through millions of adverts. So here today is a world exclusive. Dr Sarfatti's report to the CIA entitled Implications of Metaphysics for Psychoenergetic Systems. And it reveals 50 years ago in 1974, the CIA was already interested in the relationship between consciousness, the highly strange, and physics. If space-time is not fundamental, but is derived order from something more fundamental, then what is the primordial pre-geometry from which space-time is created? It is the quantum principle. The full meaning of quantum theory is still in the stage of being born. In my opinion, the quantum principle involves mind. Professor Eugene Wigner has said that the next revolution in theoretical physics will occur with the properties of mind are explicitly included in the equations of quantum theory. And this is Simon making a general point. During this fascinating era, consciousness and its interface with physics was being deeply explored by Dr Sarfatti and lots of other people. One of the most important people that was investigated at that time was Uri Geller. Now, Uri Geller we see as members of the public as a spoon-bending magician. But no, Uri Geller was fundamental to this consciousness research. Uri Geller demonstrated the bending of metal and the triggering of a Geiger counter tube by psychoenergetic means in a series of controlled and repeatable tests conducted by Professor John Husted at Birkbeck College, University of London in 1974. And in summary, Dr Sarfatti wrote, "It may well be that classical definitions of energy and its conservation will shortly have to be either expanded or superseded in ways that allow physics to handle a much richer kind of universe. This revision would appear to be one that is fundamentally linked with the understanding of biological systems and further, a deep appreciation of the role of the participator and his consciousness. As Wheeler recently remarked, we will understand how simple the universe is when we recognize how strange it is." So that's all I'm going to read out. The report is fascinating, and you can read it in full on the free Patreon account as a text document. Please go there and read it. It will really shed a light on the relationship between physics and consciousness. So Dr Sarfatti has come, visited, and gone. And amazingly, I've got over an hour of cut film with Jack talking about really interesting stuff over his brief visit with me. So what are you going to sit down and enjoy on this Sunday? Well, something very special. A compilation of my entire visit with Jack Sarfatti, with some new stuff which you haven't seen. Jack wanted me to actually change some of the films for this compilation. You know, we rushed them out, or I rushed them out. As soon as he'd finished, I was editing and getting them out to you. And now that we've seen them, Jack has said, ooh, could we just tweak that physics? The picture you used is not very illustrative. And so we've worked together, and between us, we've come up with this 1 hour, that'll take up your Sunday, of me talking to Jack Sarfatti about the physics of UFOs. It was supposed to be about the physics of post-Manhattan Project, but that didn't happen, as you know. I mean, the classic thing why I originally wanted to talk to Jack Sarfatti was because the Manhattan Project was basically Einstein's E equals mc squared scrawled on a blackboard that got turned into a bomb, an actual physical nuts and bolts chemistry and physics bomb that exploded. And I think even the military were amazed that they took all these crazy nutters, these physicists, and put them in Los Alamos in a hut and said, can you build us a bomb from your blackboard equation? And they did. And that's how the world's changed ever since physics has successfully built the atomic bomb. The military want physics to build them the next weapon. What else can you do? And one of the things that physics possibly can do in the future is to modify gravity, space, and time. And Jack's very much a leading player in that field of physics. So that's what you should get from Jack Sarfatti. So sit back and enjoy over an hour of me sometimes slightly desperately losing it. Other times really, really enjoying what he's saying, but very much appreciating Jack Sarfatti coming all the way to my little humble house here in France and talking to me about what he wanted to talk about. But that was fine because I've certainly personally learned a lot. He's very passionate about what he believes in, and I mean, he has an interesting history. He's met and worked with so many people, and as I said, he's standing on the shoulder of giants. His tutors and all the people he's interacted with and worked with over the years are fascinating, and we have to trust that Jack's theories are very, very, very smart, and I think they are. You know, he's ahead of his time. And you already know that because the film Back to the Future is very, very much based on Jack Sarfatti's and other people's creative work on time travel. He is the inspiration today, and there's probably practical projects going on using Jack Sarfatti's work that just are very, very classified and I don't know about. But in the future, I think he has unlocked a new world, a new quantum world of metamaterials that possibly in the future us or other people from other planets are using. So thanks for being loyal viewers. This is my gift to you to be able to sit down and watch all of Jack re-edited, all joined together, and hopefully, like me, you will learn something from what Jack Sarfatti actually says.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Jack!
Oh, look at that.
I know.
Look at that.
Jack Sarfatti in my house.
Yeah.
Hi, Jack. You're very welcome. Thank you for coming all the way to France.
Yes, thank you. It's thank you for your kind hospitality.
Oh, it's a great honor and privilege to speak to you. I have so many questions. Jack Sarfatti, born September the 14th, 1939 in Brooklyn, New York. Sarfatti attended Cornell University and was awarded a PhD from the University of California, Riverside under Fred Cummings. Many of Jack's mentors were part of the Manhattan Bomb Project. He went on to study at the UK's Atomic Energy Research Establishment at Harwell and the Max Planck Institute for Physics in Munich, Germany. Leaving academia, Sarfatti was recruited by the CIA to answer their questions on the physics of consciousness and the propulsion technology of flying saucers. In 1973, Sarfatti met Harold Puthoff and Russell Targ at Stanford Research Institute, where they shared ideas on UFOs and consciousness. Jack thinks UFOs are human time machines, visiting the past to secure and protect their future. During his visit to us in France, Dr Sarfatti explained how UFOs use physics to manipulate gravity, space, and time.
So the math of Plato's objective reality invariance is the tensor calculus, which Einstein had to struggle. It took him 10 years with the help of his mathematical friend Marcel Grossman. He had to learn the tensor calculus in order to get that equation, G equals KT. And once you understand really what that gravity field equation, capital G is capital K, capital T, manipulate K, control the universe. When you understand that, then you become a Time Lord. Okay? In a real sense, that you can travel in time, you can manipulate gravity, and also you can shoot down any. I mean, you have an F-18 coming at. If I have a warp drive vehicle where I can control the gravitational field, and if you try to shoot a nuclear missile at me, I can make that missile bounce back in kind of a force shield, kind of a sort of an anti-gravity force shield. I can jam your electronics. I can make you crash. If you have a nuclear weapon in a silo, I can deactivate your nuclear weapon, which is what they're doing. So that's what we're talking about here. Yeah, let's be very clear. That's what we're talking. So when Travis Taylor says G equals KT, manipulate K, and control the universe, he's talking about the most advanced weapon system there is, which we actually see. That's what the non-human intelligence are. And they're showing, and they're neutralizing our nuclear weapons. Hopefully they've neutralized all our nuclear weapons so we can't kill ourselves in nuclear war. But of course I could be wrong. You know, that's the best case scenario. So this is the big picture of what's going on here. This is more than speculation. This is survival. This is survival. Yes, let me take a look at some of these questions.
So thinking what to ask Jack, I sent him a list of questions.
My God, what is physics? Physics is the study of the natural world using logic, reason, and mathematical language.
That's great. But how does physics interface with society? I mean, how do people... So before Newton was hit in the head with an apple, how did, after Newton discovered gravity or defined gravity, how does it affect society? How does physics interface with normal people?
Okay, I think we should start earlier than that.
Yes.
We should start with the, what are we near now? The caves? How long ago is that? 20,000 years
People have lived in this part of France for over 20,000 years, or at least the caves, there's evidence of modern humans, and then before that, Neanderthals. So 20,000 years ago.
Okay, but you were telling me about the three-dimensional nature of those paintings and how in the light there was motion pictures.
Oh, right. So around here, the ancient cave paintings, you have to remember that caves aren't flat, and the undulating rock wall of a cave was augmented reality. So the ancient artists saw the rump of a deer or a mammoth and added legs. And as Jack said, often that undulation, the concave and convex nature of caves could be animated, brought to life with a flickering candle.
Yeah,
physics.
Exactly, that's physics. That's applied physics. They were empirical. They were using physics. Without physics, there is no civilization. Without physics, there's no technology. And without physics, we're in what Hobbes called a state of nature, a short, nasty, brutal, and we may be approaching a state of nature right now. Actually.
Right.
That's happening in the world, but that's another issue. So
then when great physicists thought and worked things out on the cave paintings or a blackboard, how does it affect society?
It creates society. I mean, society needs technology.
But it's bigger than just technology, because it defines the nature. We start thinking about the nature of our universe.
Yeah, and it basically, you cannot. I mean, It's survival. You have to have physics to survive in the natural world, because you have to know how the natural world works for survival.
Right.
So it's
so when light emits or a stone hits you on the head, how does that work?
Yeah. So obviously
what were the forces of nature?
Yeah. So the early man were already the first physicists, right? They just didn't have the method. It evolved slowly. Although how it evolved. See, now we have to.
Yeah.
See, there is we've recently discovered that time travel is real.
Yeah. Travel Back to the Future with Jack Sarfatti.
In the book The Day After Roswell, it's like
learn from Jack how physics will transform society, building a world free of conflict by enlightening humans to forces of nature that have always existed. Only now we can paradigm shift into a new era, a future epoch that can move freely through time and space.
Listen to the Sarfatti. I think I am the first genuine, authentic, real Time Lord. As they say, if control the light cone and you control time.
In AD 150, Marcus Aurelius said time is like a river, flowing in one direction. But maybe time is not like a river flowing in one direction. Well, maybe time can flow in either direction. For nearly 2,000 years, time flowing from the past into the future was good enough for most people. But it never explained what is time. Along came Isaac Newton, and he brilliantly described gravity. But again, Newton's description of the effects of gravity did not explain what was its cause. Not until Albert Einstein brought time, space, and gravity together did we start to understand how time and gravity were linked. But the concept of Einstein's space-time still causes confusion today. Neil deGrasse Tyson beautifully simplifies it. If I say, "See you tomorrow at noon," you immediately ask, where? Or if I say, "Meet you in the bar," you ask, when? Suddenly we get it. We all live in space-time. But Einstein added gravity to that equation. Imagine the fire triangle: heat, fuel, oxygen. Einstein's physics triangle is gravity, space, and time. All three are interlocked. Alter one and you mess up the others. This was brilliantly proved here, on a tiny island off the coast of West Africa on the 29th of May 1919. UK mathematician Arthur Eddington observed the known position of stars were mysteriously moved by the mass of the sun. This gravitational lensing was only observable during a total eclipse, hence its location, watching a solar totality from Principe Island in Africa. Now we knew that the gravitational mass of the sun bends space and hence time. Einstein correctly described four-dimensional space-time not as rigid but as flexible. Space-time tells matter how to move. Matter tells space-time how to curve. But he painted his theory of general relativity with a broad brush, ignoring forces inside matter. Jack Sarfatti did not ignore the strong quantum electrodynamic forces between charges that comprise matter. He says a UFO modifies its confined gravity near field by manipulating quantum electrodynamic forces inside its metamaterial fuselage, controlling its weightless geodesic trajectory with tiny amounts of electrical power. Is this how UFOs fly? They appear to defy normal physics. If they can manipulate gravity in space, it's logical they can also go anywhere in time. Jack Sarfatti, as a teenager, was contacted by a mechanical device from the future, telling him over his parents' phone that time-traveling UFOs were real, and asking him as a kid to start studying the physics of time travel. The voice from the future he spoke to in 1953 also said in 20 years' time, you will meet others. Other kids selected to research time travel. So since that encounter, Jack has been seeking answers to what he was asked to do. In part 2 of my conversation with Jack Sarfatti, Jack tells us how exactly 20 years later, a CIA-funded program called SRI contacted him. There he met astronaut Edgar Mitchell, physicist Hal Puthoff, and parapsychologist Russell Targ. All were the UFO selected kids from 20 years ago, now for the first time in the same room.
We've recently discovered that time travel is real.
Really?
That isn't real, it's operational.
Well, what's time? What isn't time a human construct?
No, I'm talking about now physical. I'm talking about the space-time continuum of Einstein's relativity. Gravity, the modern theories of gravity that began with Einstein in 1915 in his general relativity theory, and we now know because of the observations of what used to be called flying saucers. What now they call UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena.
Or anomalous phenomena. Right.
That for almost 80 years there was a deliberate stigma attached to it by the American military-industrial complex, and I guess some of the foreign intelligence organizations also, because it was a military threat, which they did not understand the physics of it, and so they tried to cover it up. But now we know since Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal in December of 2017, the famous New York Times article about the Pentagon making it that there really is something going on. That started it. Oddly enough, I was with Hal Puthoff and Kit Green in London in late October of 2017, and when they were having phone conversations between London and Washington, D.C., I think probably with Leslie Kean and God knows who else, creating that article about the reality of the UFO.
Why was it important in 2017 to reveal what they had known for decades publicly?
That's a good question, and I'm not privy to all that. But I'm just guessing now. It's just an educated guess that there was a whistleblower that contacted Christopher Mellon, right? And I think so. He somehow, it's just it was being leaked. It's kind of like the Pentagon Papers, right? With Dan
so the
Ellsberg.
films existed. He was going to leak it. Christopher Mellon organized the leak, or managed it.
Yeah, I think so. That's my impression. Yeah. And I'm not,
we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah. This is just public knowledge. Right. And by the way, those films, the Tic Tac films, they were out on the internet for years before that.
Right.
But people didn't pay attention to them. And, So I think that's part of the problem. In any case, the point is this. The point I'm making is that my role in all this, I was a student at Cornell University in the late 1950s with the professors that built the atomic bomb. If you see the movie Oppenheimer, those are all the guys I learned physics from in the 50s. Even before that, I must say, this was Jacques Vallée and Eric Davis have written called High Strangeness. In the years before that, when I was a child in the late 1940s, I'm born in 1939. In the late 1940s, My grandfather worked for the United States Army in Manhattan in the Quartermaster Corps. And I was living with my grandparents, and I was about 9, 10 years old. So this is like 1949 to 1950. Only 2 or 3 years, 4 years maybe after Roswell.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I would go down after school to visit my grandfather at the Army Quartermaster Corps.
Oh, right.
This is, and in fact, it was like my playground.
Yeah, it was full of kids, interesting stuff.
Yeah, well, they had the laboratories
right.
for the cold weather, the warm weather, hot weather.
Right.
In any case, I was given free reign.
Oh, wow.
It was a playground for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was racks of gear. And
oh yeah, the lab. There was it was a high. A learning environment. I was given free reign to to wander around for this was over a year or two.
Right.
Okay. So then, as I'm a bit older, and when I'm 13 years old, and I get this strange telephone call from what says it is a conscious computer on board a spacecraft from the future.
This is in the 1950s.
This is 1953 or so.
Before Sputnik.
What?
Before Sputnik.
Wait before Sputnik. But this is at the time as all the UFO stuff flapped.
But there was nothing human in orbit.
Well, I don't know, but I'm just telling you, there was a cold, metallic voice sounding like Stephen Hawking's voice today, metallic, saying it was a conscious computer on board a spacecraft, and that they were contacting me and some other what they call bright receptive minds, and they wanted to teach us their technology. Great. Okay.
How inspirational.
Okay, and they said I had to agree to it by my own free will. And at the time, I remember being fascinated by it. I was very suspicious. I thought, who could be doing this? And
what did you tell your mother?
Well, wait. So I said I didn't tell her anything.
Okay.
I said yes. But I was thinking no. It was like a split thing, and I felt an electric shock go through the base of my spine up the back. And they said good. We'll send a ship to pick you up in 10 minutes. Go to your fire escapes. They had a fire. We'll send a ship to pick you up in 10 minutes.
Yes.
At that point, I got very scared. But thrilled.
Right.
And I ran. I was living on the 3rd floor, Nostrand Avenue in Flatbush, Brooklyn. And it was a summer night. It was a beautiful night. And I quickly ran down the 3 flights of stairs, into the street to
wait for it.
No. Let me tell the story. You can't. And I found 3 of my friends. I found my friend Winky, real name Alan Bro, a tough Irish kid. Right. Okay, I mean like a fighter kid, And 2 Italian brothers, Norman and Neil Legata. Like big. I think Neil was a big guy. He was like 14, big Italian kid, guy. And his little brother,
the kid,
and said, "Hey, flying saucers, they're gonna come and get me." So all 4 of us as kids, we went upstairs, we got to the fire escape, we wait, nothing happened. At least that's one of our memories. Nothing happened. Okay. Oh, I forgot to also the most important thing. On that phone call.
Yes.
Was that they said. When I said yes, they said, you will begin to meet the others in 20 years.
Others?
The other kids they were contacting.
They were contacted more than, there was a group contacted.
A group of what they call bright receptive minds.
Did you ever meet them?
And now it gets strange. I'm in bed, and Sharon's mother brings in the San Francisco Chronicle Sunday paper. Just in paper, and now it's going to get very weird. I open up the paper. I open up the San Francisco Chronicle Sunday magazine. I open up, and it's a big article. Stanford research, SRI, studying psychics, including Uri Geller. Early Monday morning, I call SRI. Okay, right away I get through. to an Irishman, a guy named Brendan O'Regan.
Well,
Okay. Who was the assistant to Edgar Mitchell, who was running the program. And of course, this is a Central Intelligence Agency project, which I didn't
no, you didn't
know at the time. But we now know it's all right.
Yes.
CIA.
Right.
Yeah, Russell and
Russell Targ.
And Hal put him.
Right.
And so this with his Irish accent from Dublin, he says, Dr. Sarfatti. It is Irish. I can't do that.
All right.
We were hoping you would call us.
You did.
Yeah, but you know.
But this is
Wait a minute.
psychic.
No, well, first of all.
Right.
Okay. I mean, how do they know I'm going to pick up the newspaper?
Right.
Okay, and read this and give them a call. You say, we were hoping you would call us.
Well.
Now, remember when your guy was Ron Evans talking about time?
Yes.
Is the time? Okay, wait. So keep that in mind.
Time.
Time travel. We're hoping you would call us. Right. Can you come up to SRI? We'd like to talk to you.
Ooh.
Now, if this doesn't sound like weird Twilight Zone,
right.
Or the Outer Limits, this is paranormal stuff. I didn't quite realize it, everything then, but it was pretty spooky, right? How did they? Oh, and they said they knew where I was.
No.
They said it's a short drive from your place.
How do you know where I am?
Well, obviously surveillance. It is a CIA project too, right? Okay. Right. And the first thing I meet Brendan, and first thing he takes me to the a course from SRI is the Institute of Noetic Science, and I'm introduced to Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut who walked on the moon.
Sure, Edgar.
Okay, right. Who's running the project?
Oh, right.
Running the project.
Right.
And then I'm taken to, and I have conversations with Brendan, and somehow I then remembered, that was 20 years later.
Right.
The phone call. I'm going to meet the others in 20 years. And I tell Brendan about the phone call.
Does the 20 years work out?
It's 20 years.
No. It's 20 years since the phone call?
It's 1973, 1953. That sounds like 20 years to me.
Okay.
But who was there, beside, was Hal Puthoff.
Yeah.
Russell Targ.
Right.
And a bunch of psychology people I don't remember. But
right.
And they had there was a tape recorded. It was being tape recorded.
Right.
I was there for several hours. And part of that tape recording, and you will hear Russell Targ starts talking about this crazy Jim Hurtak, this rabbi involved with the UFOs and flying saucers and contacts, and you will hear Russell Targ say, we think flying saucers are time travel machines from the future. And you'll hear me talk the story.
The phone call.
You'll hear it then in 1973 at the CIA session that's being recorded. Okay.
Let me just tell you one other thing, and I'm just, take this with a grain of salt. It's pure speculation. It's a hunch. It's just intuition. Okay, and I can't back it up. Okay, but the feeling that I have, which I've been getting over the past 2 years, every now and then, it's kind of like I indulge myself in sort of a private fantasy trip. I don't really, do it with a sense of humor. But the thing that I have is that maybe suppose these UFO people do exist for the sake of argument. I think they're probably men, but from the future.
Or it might be us.
It might be us in the future. I think I see it as kind of bootstrap effect, sort of self-consistent effect that in order for them to exist, certain ideas. Well, not only that, but they have to develop the technology by which they exist, and they'll actually put these ideas into the heads of like Simon Einstein or even Newton.
This is one of Geller's things too, isn't it? Harsh mentioned the future civilization is in saucers back.
Well, that's what I think.
I'd never heard that from Geller. Yes, I did. I've heard Geller say that these people came from the future.
Okay, well, you see, the point is this: I can show how present-day physics, generally, the general theory of relativity, allows at least the possibility for such a thing. It doesn't violate any physical law.
Hal and I are very sympathetic to that. In fact, our current pitch is one of the things we're exploring is that all of the mental phenomena, clairvoyance, telepathy, and so forth, really evidences are explainable by precognition.
There it is, okay? That's this fact. You cannot explain this away as some kind of, even if the CIA would, first, the CIA in 1953 was not smart enough to know what was going to happen 20 years later. It's got to be time travel. It's the only way to explain it, all right? And I challenge any skeptic to come on with me and let's debate these facts, because there's evidence. It's hardcore evidence that'll stand up in a court of law.
Sure.
Okay, all right.
So when little green men travel from a distant planet to Earth, how did they get here?
Well, first of all, I don't think our little green men are coming from a distant planet. They're coming from a future Earth, because it's time travel. The universe, however, is vast, and there are little green men or purple men and God knows what on other planets and other star systems, that's for sure, and they can all get here by warp drive. But I think the ones that we're in contact with, at least the ones that I was in contact with in 1953, are future descendants of ours from the future, actually artificial intelligences.
They're humans.
Well, humans may have made them, but the one that I had direct contact with said it was a conscious artificial intelligence, part of like a tic-tac flying saucer craft. So the point.
Why has it come back to this our age?
Well, one thing maybe
doesn't that break the whole continuity of time?
Absolutely, you got it just oppositely wrong. That's called the Novikov self-consistency principle.
Right.
And the point is, they are back here in order for them to exist in what Igor Novikov, who's a physicist in Moscow, he may not be alive now, worked with Kip Thorne. Kip Thorne, Interstellar, he's talking about these time loops, the same thing I'm talking about, is the basic plot of Interstellar. And the point is, they came back so that I and others I work with can create them in a self-consistent loop in time. And things happen in the present, not only because of things that have happened already in the past, but because of things that will happen in the future. And that is basically what quantum entanglement is all about, according to the interpretation of Yakia Aharonov, who worked with David Bohm and Lenny Susskind, people like that. And in fact, for this back from the future, what's called weak measurement two-state vector quantum theory, President Obama, when he was president, actually gave a medal to Yakia Aharonov for this back from the future theory, which I also independently got, but it's not quite the same mathematical formalism that Yakia Aharonov got.
Right.
But we were all part of the same mix of ideas.
Right. So why would they come back? They need to make sure that the past happened?
Well, they wouldn't exist. It's all what's called the self-consistent loop in time. Right. It's kind of like Terminator, but Terminator,
right?
Except that instead of killing us, they want to help us. The other reason they may be back is that because we know from Rendlesham, that they neutralize nuclear weapons.
Right.
Hopefully, our visitors from the future, who I'm going to help create with other physicists,
right.
Hopefully they have neutralized all our nuclear weapons so that we cannot destroy ourselves, as what seems to be possible because of what's happening in the Ukraine with the war with Russia. And where...
Do you think there's possibly multiple future paths? And they need to, or wouldn't they know that they need to come back because they know what they did worked.
Prevents, hopefully, yeah. If the best case scenario, there's only one unique, I'm not talking about many worlds now, that's another possibility.
Right.
Everything I'm saying can be wrong.
Right.
Because if it's good physics, it's got to be what's called Popper falsifiable. Mm-hmm. So right now I'm giving one particular narrative, which is an optimistic narrative, that even though things look pretty bad right now,
right.
It may turn out to be okay, because even if we try to have a nuclear war, the nukes won't go off.
Right.
That's the best case scenario. On the other hand, I may be totally wrong, and we may all be dead in a few months.
Right, and maybe the people from the future are there because we are dead. We don't know.
No, that wouldn't make any. That'd be illogical.
Right.
That's illogical.
Right.
If they are from the future, then we survive because we created them. They told me in 1953 that I'm their creator.
Great.
Okay? So hopefully that's why I guess we should be sort of optimistic.
Right. Wow. Jack really is an optimist, and I hope it works out. Hey viewers, are you enjoying these chats with Jack Sarfatti? I am. He's a mine of information and certainly likes to share it. So there's lots more to look forward to here. Jack deep dives into the physics, and I ask him questions about Back to the Future. So don't go anywhere. Please give this film a thumbs up now to tell YouTube that this is the type of content that you enjoy watching. And remember to subscribe or join me on Patreon for advert-free early access to all these films. Because of you, the truth is out there. Hey viewers, this is Wiley and me editing in the future. I wanted to talk to you about nuclear weapons. I've had this idea around, and it kind of resonates with what Jack says, that maybe us from the future have already come back and neutralized nuclear weapons. Let's look at some of these facts. Britain, for example, has Trident nuclear missiles, which are hydrogen bombs, and every 10 to 12 years they need to be refurbished with something called tritium gas to actually make them work. But the tritium plant at Chapel Cross has been closed for over 10 years. The United States no longer has the ability to produce the cores for new weapons. Maybe Los Alamos can make a few, but it's only a laboratory, it's not a production facility. And last time I visited an ICBM silo, it was, the kind of kit from the 1960s and 70s. They didn't even have GPS. It was inertial navigation. Where are the new missiles? Is it possible that nuclear weapons today are actually a sham weapon system? China, Russia, the United States are working on hypersonic missiles with conventional warheads. Nuclear weapons might not work anymore. Of course, it's highly speculative of me to even mention that, because nuclear weapons still might be the deadly doomsday weapon that we all dread. But hey, isn't what Jack Sarfatti is saying really fascinating and inspiring and thought-provoking? Jack really likes to push boundaries, which is great, because that's how new ideas come to light. So I hope you're enjoying these films from my meeting with Jack. There's more to come. Stay tuned. UFOs are real. They are a global phenomenon seen throughout human history. They often display characteristics that are not found in man-made craft. These have been defined as the 5 observables. 1. Sudden and instantaneous acceleration that would produce crippling g-force. 2. Hypersonic velocities without signatures, such as sonic booms. 3. Low observability, often manifesting unusual visual signatures. 4. Transmedium travel in space, air and water. 5. Positive lift, without conventional lift services such as wings. And I would like to add 2 more characteristics. Temporal effects, such as suddenly appearing or disappearing in both space and time. And the other overlooked dangerous effect of injuries to human life for experiencers who get too close to the highly strange. Not only are they real, but they have been studied by many nations' governments to ascertain if they pose a defense risk. Jack Sarfatti was asked by the CIA to answer a fascinating question. Not, are they real, but accepting that they do exist to answer this question. How do UFOs work?
The flying saucers are real. We know exactly how they work now in terms of mainstream physics.
Right.
Whenever you hear people say that the technology is thousands, million years ahead of us. That's false. These people do not believe anything they say. They're not real physicists. They don't know what they're talking about. The physics behind the flying saucers is quite elementary application of Einstein's general theory of relativity over 100 years ago, and some elementary applications of quantum mechanics in solid state, condensed matter, metamaterial physics.
Metamaterials can be defined as artificially structured materials to control and mold the flow of electromagnetic waves, or possibly other types of physical wave. Metamaterials have structure to refract electromagnetic energy, often fine-tuned to specific wavelengths. For example, to randomly scatter radar energy, reflecting off the skin of a stealthy aircraft. Today we have developed metamaterials that can be made to interact with the full spectrum of EM frequencies. Complex metamaterial forms that interact with far-field photons. But warp drive metamaterial technology needs to interact with the quantum world of near-field virtual photons, between the artificial meta-atoms in the layered 2D quantum well lattices. When we make that work, it will unlock machines that will exploit space-time travel.
What the UFOs are doing, they are able to control the gravity field inside their thin metamaterial shell fuselages. They're controlling their it's basically the active mass of those metamaterials manipulates the gravity field, with K being very big, and it's manipulating it with a very small amount of energy density, let's call it. The energy density that you need to accomplish it is quite small, where what you're interested in is generating what kind of gravity field, what's called a near gravity field, is confined just to the material, to the thin shell material, and what kind of gravity field is created in there, because also the speed of light in that material depends on the frequency of the light. So it gets very, very complicated. And as it turns out, this is pretty much unexplored territory in physics. The physicists have not really adequately studied this, which is why the motion of these UFOs appears mysterious to them. This is what Kevin Knuth in his papers has shown. The UFOs, they appear to be requiring thousands of Gs, which is impossible. It would rip everything apart, would kill anybody inside. But in fact, the people inside are free floating. So in a way, it's kind of an optical illusion from the gravity, from the warping of space and time, of the warp field that's inside the fuselage, the metamaterial fuselage of the craft.
For the occupants of technology inside these advanced craft, there would be no unbearable G-forces. Jack Sarfatti says the UFOs seen by the US Navy have warp drives, a propulsion system that can bend space and time, a drive system far more efficient than our current jet or rocket engines.
What are these flying saucers doing? What are these? What does the U.S. Navy see the Tic Tacs doing? Okay, they're seeing warp drive. What they're seeing is the ship controls its own light cone tilt with small amounts of energy. That's what we're seeing. Okay, so let's do a picture. Let's do. This is for Elon Musk. Hey, Elon. Hi, Elon. This is how you're doing with your rocket ships. I wouldn't go in that rocket ship to Mars because you're not going to ever get there. Oh, it's going to be it's uncomfortable, claustrophobic. Who wants to go to a little tin can for 6 months going crazy? You wish, get me out of here. All right. So here's how to get to Mars in 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Why not? All right, look. So here is. Let me choose colors. So here's what the Tic Tac does. The Tic Tac is able to do this. Look. It's able to do. Look at this. UFO. What happened? What is it doing? I don't know what's happening. All right. Huh. Obviously you're hackers.
You're getting too close to the truth.
I'm getting too close to the truth.
They know.
Of course they know.
And they disabled your finger.
They disabled the program.
Uh-oh.
This is exactly like what the UFOs are doing to the nuclear weapons. Oh, we got it. Okay, came back. We knew we discovered them. Okay, let's see. Let's erase this. Let's see. Right? But it's funny that it stopped at that point.
And really strange.
That's really strange, right? Well, maybe it was a message that they're watching us.
Yeah.
They know they know what we're doing. They know what we're doing. Okay. Good. Hey, to the conscious artificial intelligence who contacted me. Listen, I'm just doing what you told me to do. Okay, yeah. Let me do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Here the ship is at rest.
In the hangar.
In the hangar, and here the ship arrives at the Marsport.
Landed.
Yeah. So,
right.
All right. So, but here's the point. This is the light cone. Let's see. Here's let's see. There's a light cone.
Right.
This light cone. The ship, as far as the ship is concerned, it's in free float. It's controlling its own gravitational field. So controlling its gravitational field means it's controlling the orientation of its light cone with small amounts of energy. Okay, and here is say on Marsport,
right?
You know, they're what do you call it? The traffic controller.
Yeah.
You know, in the tower.
Mars air traffic control.
Yeah.
Right.
He's his light cone.
Right. Yeah.
So, but look at this. Look, this is really interesting. This is incredible. This is the Sarfatti discovery. Nobody else knew this before Jack Sarfatti discovered it by thinking about Roger Penrose's Twister lectures back, at Birkbeck College a long time ago, in 1971. Okay, nobody else has seen this. So look, what's happening here? This is like This is Livingston. Who was when they went to Africa with Livingston.
Dr. Livingston, I presume. Yeah.
This is how they communicate. Here, the UFO, the yellow UFO, is in warp drive in the yellow, but what's happening at Marsport? It's they're sending a signal, which is received here.
Right.
Okay. This is the future light cone. The future light cone at Marsport is transmitting a signal, which is coming back in time, so to speak,
right,
in the future light cone of the ship in warp drive.
Because it lines up.
Well, yeah. Well, they have to, otherwise they can't communicate.
Right.
Otherwise you got nothing, right?
Okay.
Okay, but look, it's a two-way channel. The UFO can send a signal, transmit a signal in her future light cone, which then comes into the future light cone, so that it goes two ways. They're able to talk to each other. While the ship's in warp. This is faster than light warp drive. Since
right.
It's faster than light. This is FTL. Warp drive. It's almost like the thing is normal. I mean, in other words, the ship in warp drive is able to receive signals, from the past, a retarded signal. Okay, but it goes both ways because they can both both the future light cone of Marsport and the future light cone of the ship in faster light warp drive intersect each other, and they're able to communicate both ways in time. Now, all the papers that are being published on this topic
right.
of the fast light are all wrong. They all none of their. I claim they're all mistaken because they claim that this cannot happen.
Right.
And that's because they don't understand what they're talking about. Now either they're right, maybe I'm wrong, but this is an issue that has to be debated,
right.
and they're all afraid to debate me on this issue.
Right.
Okay, so there we go. So this is basically now. This is warp. This is getting from Earth to Mars,
right.
or this could be Alpha Centauri. You go
right.
to stellar, doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about collisions with dust or anything like that, because there's no relative motion of the ship with respect to the stuff, the particles outside the ship, because they're all wrapped up in the same gravity field, and gravity, the acceleration is universal, so you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Okay, basically. I mean, slightly oversimplified, but that's basically it. So there's no barrier. So the point is, in terms of Elon, you there? Let me see the image. Okay, the image. Elon, Elon, bad boy, Elon. You're wasting all that money you should be thinking about, you should be consulting with the Sarfatti about switching. Not only that, your Tesla cars. We can make your Tesla cars out of metamaterials, and they're going to have anti-gravity and float exactly like Emmett Brown in Back to the Future, which I was the model for Emmett Brown, by the way, Back from the Future. So take it from me. Would you buy a used Tesla from Jack Sarfatti with anti-gravity drive? Yes. Oh, and not only that, Elon, but these metamaterial holes, they also have conscious artificial intelligence.
Jack has both the personal experience. An advanced conscious AI machine contacted him in 1953, and inside knowledge of recovered conscious metamaterials. Both the engineering of conscious materials and a UFO's ability to modify space and time and hence gravity is of great interest to the military and defense contractors, who are constantly seeking new physics to weaponize.
For the flying saucers, they have a controllable active mass that could be made very, very large. Because if you saw the statement of Travis Taylor on Twitter on December 11th, 2022, was it?
Yeah.
He says, he writes Einstein's equation as big G, and he should have put capital K, equals big T. Big G is basically the gravitational field that is created by big T, which roughly speaking is the active source mass. Technically it's called the stress energy tensor. And K is the coupling coefficient, or the transducer, if you like, between active mass creating gravity and the gravity field it creates. Now everybody up until Sarfatti, and actually I have to give some credit to Ray Chow, who I'm working with. Ray Chow actually in 2002 independently discovered what I'm talking about the active mass, but didn't connect it to the UFO phenomenon. He was thinking about, what he was thinking about was how is it possible to detect gravity waves like from LIGO, from pulsars. And in order to detect the gravity waves, he showed that you have to have the active mass really different from the passive mass. That's the in any case. So Ray Chow, and I should share the discovery. It should be called the Sarfatti Chow active mass effect, which explains the warp drive that we see in the U.S. Navy close encounters with the Tic Tacs. That what's happening is that these flying saucers, whatever you want to call them, they are controlling their own active mass, determining their self-gravity field, which is canceling out. It could become anti-gravity at times, which is canceling out the Earth's field. And that's how they're able to fly free float through seeing what we see them doing, and that's how they can outfly any of our F-18s. It's a superior technology which renders all rocket jet technology impotent and obsolete. So this is a major technological weapon related, can't ignore the weapons aspect, that renders all our current military technology impotent and obsolete. And these NHI, these things flying around, they're able to neutralize our nuclear weapons. And our jet fighters can't do anything. They can have like an EMP, bang, can't do anything. So we are totally defenseless against this new technology.
But what Jack Sarfatti has done by scientifically figuring out how UFOs function is our best defense. Knowledge of their physics, understanding UFOs' characteristics, and ultimately figuring out how they work. It's the confirmation of open source science that will enlighten humanity, not the wishful thinking that disclosure will ever happen from the very people who wrote the book on how to keep stuff secret. The truth is out there. Hey viewers, so this is going to be the fourth and last film that I make with Jack Sarfatti. It was a very interesting visit when he came to my house. I feel as if I owe you, the viewers, a bit of an explanation. I'd first come across Jack Sarfatti through Tim Ventura's channel, where he interviews top leading physicists, and it's fascinating. And Jack had gone through the whole bunch of his physics, and I didn't really understand it. And then I saw Jack popping up time and time again, telling the fascinating story about the phone call he got from a conscious AI craft from the future in 1953, and how that inspired him, and I think that's brilliant, to become a physicist and explore what the AI were asking him to discover. Jack Sarfatti's done lots of interesting physics at the most interesting time in physics. That's what I wanted to talk to him about. I'm fascinated, as you know, in Has Physics Gone Dark? Ever since the Manhattan Project, when Pandora's box was opened and out jumped the genie of atomic power from a blackboard physics equation, that box has never been shut. The military weaponization of physics has continued since World War II, and Jack Sarfatti is that person who stands on the shoulder of giants, people who actually built and worked at the Manhattan Project, and he's gone through the 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and to the 21st century, working in the era of physics I'm interested in, the Dark Ages, where physics has been weaponized. So many physics departments are actually funded by defense contractors, governments, looking for the next cutting edge way of transport, killing people, bombs, weapons, whatever it is. That's what I've seen at university level, and that's what I've been told is the leading force of modern physics, funded by weaponization. So that's what I wanted to talk to Jack about. Jack's career spans that entire era. So if you notice, on the very first film, I sat Jack down on my sofa and said, "What's physics?" And that was to unlock what I thought would be this great, interesting history of this era that Jack Sarfatti has worked on. The dark era of World War II to the present day, covering things like gravity modification in the 50s, and then post-Vietnam, all that staring at goats and SRI and MK Ultra, and how the hippies saved physics. Just really interesting. Out-of-the-box thinking, the birth of the internet, and a bit of physics about flying saucers, maybe, but I'd seen that a lot. Now, I'm sure Jack's watching this, and what I'm about to say is a little harsh, Jack, but you really can't explain in layman's language what you're doing. And that's absolutely understandable. And in fact, you personally told me that you almost don't want to, because the physics level of what you are saying warp drive physics is runs out of words and enters the realm of equations and mathematics very quickly. Words like quantum and photon need explaining. And most people don't really understand the relationship between Einstein and quantum mechanics. I mean, it's just very, very, very interesting and difficult stuff. And I failed. I failed on two counts. First of all, I didn't want to talk to Jack Sarfatti about flying saucers. I wanted to talk about the dark age of physics. But that didn't work. And secondly, I failed just the same as all social media sites have failed with Jack Sarfatti. We haven't explained well enough what he's on about. He actually really tried with me. He was very sympathetic to me, and I'm a good listener. And he drew lots of diagrams and went over them. I can't turn Jack Sarfatti's equations into a reasonable explanation that can actually communicate on YouTube, we literally run out of words. We enter a different realm of language. And so I apologize. Jack himself just wants to go on about what he's discovered, but he soon runs out of a reasonable explanation. So what you saw in my interviews and with every other interview, probably apart from Tim Ventura, who just, really seems to understand better what Jack's talking about than me or other people, is that we just don't really know what he's talking about. And Jack knows that the English language just fails to explain near-field, far-field quantum mechanics. I mean, you can't. Metamaterials of virtual particles. It's hard stuff. So what happens when people like me interview Jack, and you've all pointed this out, is that you don't really understand what he's on about. I or other people haven't helped. And you just assess Jack as a person, as a personality. And, he's difficult. I mean, he's very, very, very focused on what he wants to communicate. In my case, every time he got to a really interesting point and he said, "Let me finish my story." Which is, I did, because that's me as a person. And I noticed in other channels where people have asked him questions, he's actually said, that's a silly question. Well, there's no such thing as a silly question. He actually said that to me, but it was intentionally a silly question. I wanted to know how he was going to answer something about little green men when I know he actually thinks non-human intelligences are probably time travelers. So I was playing devil's advocate with Jack. So I failed. But there's one bit that I haven't shown you yet, which is really fascinating. And it's very much my style, where I've let Jack just go and tell the story. And that's the story of Back to the Future and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, how physics interfaced with Hollywood. And Jack Sarfatti is really at the center of that. Jack lives in San Francisco in North Beach, a real cutting edge, out of the box thinking area. And Hollywood all went up to San Francisco from LA, ate Italian food, drunk wonderful coffees, and had parties on their houseboats in the San Francisco Bay Area. And today, Jack told me about that era probably in the 70s and 80s, where the film Back to the Future came from, how he is actually the Doc Brown character, which is fantastic. And a great story about Jacques Vallée being the science advisor on Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And lots of other stuff, really painting a picture of who was there, what it was like. It was a real hothouse of filmmakers and scientists and other creative people at the time, and politicians. So sit back and enjoy Jack Sarfatti uninterrupted by me, as you can see, driving in my car. We just come back from seeing a wonderful prehistoric cave where Jack Sarfatti tells you what it was like to live in North Beach, San Francisco during the era of Back to the Future and Close Encounters of a Third Kind. Take it away, Jack. Okay, we've only got 40 minutes, so stay focused.
Say 42 minutes?
Yeah, that's...
All right,
your answers are long.
So what do you want to know?
Hey Jack, so you were involved in an amazing film, Close Encounters of a Third Kind, that seems, of course, had Francois Truffaut playing the astrophysicist.
Yeah.
Who was he playing?
He was playing Jacques Vallée.
Do you know Jacques Vallée?
Yeah, well, Jacques Vallée is the guy who, behind the scenes, I was told later, arranged the meeting, my first meeting, at Stanford Research Institute, actually at Dean Brown's house near the Institute, back in 73, when I first, I had told you when I picked up the San Francisco Chronicle on a Sunday morning and saw the article about Uri Geller.
You opened it up.
I opened it up and I said, hey, this is what Bob Tobin's paying us to go to England with, and Trieste, and And I called up SRI, and this guy President Reagan gets on the phone. He says, Dr. Sarfatti, we were hoping you would call us. All right. So, and then I drove up. Please drive up. It was only about an hour and a half away from Carmel Valley to Sanford Research Lab, Menlo Park it was. And the first I was introduced to Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut who ran the program. And then Brendan took me to Dean Brown's house, which apparently Jacques Vallée was supposed to be there, but something happened. He never showed, but he arranged the meeting. And that's where I first met Hal Puthoff and Russ Togg and these people. And that's where there's the recording where I talk about, where Russ Togg says they think the flying saucers are time travel machines back from the future. And then I tell them about my experience when I was 13, and that I would meet the others in 20 years, and here I am meeting the others in 20 years.
Right.
And so in any case, Jacques Vallée became part on the periphery of the Physics Consciousness Research Group in San Francisco that was financed by Werner Erhard and at Esalen by Michael Murphy, the guy who owned Esalen in Big Sur, and by Jean Lanier, who had a wealthy heiress, and by Lawrence Rockefeller. Jean Lanier was a close friend of Lawrence Rockefeller, and I guess it was Lawrence Rockefeller's money that was paying for this 2 floors of flats across the street from the Grace Cathedral, 1155 Jones Street, corner of Jones and Sacramento. And in any case, various things happened. I got to know Francis Ford Coppola through the meeting at the S-Celebrity Training in April of, I guess it was 75 or was it 76? Mine was 75.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't remember 75 or 76.
Yeah, that's the right.
But
era.
around 75.
Right.
And then, then Francis wanted to meet Uri Geller. Because he was into this, so I don't know if he was real or not, paranormal. So Francis had a big party.
Right.
I think it was a Christmas party. It must have been 70. Yeah, it must have been 75. It must have been 74. Like Christmas 74, around that time. It must have been 74. And because it was it was April. No, it was 70. Well, it must have been 70. I can't. It had to be 76 because I met Ellie at the party at the S-Celebrity Training 76. So sometime 76. Francis had a party, and Uri Geller was in town, and Uri Geller had a rented Rolls Royce.
Whoa.
He picked me up, and we were Saul Paul Serac. We went to this party. First, before we went to Francis's house, it was really weird. Somebody invited us to a party in Sausalito on a houseboat, and it turned out to be a sex orgy party. This is back then. Right. And Uri was totally shocked. So we left it, got into his Rolls Royce, wound up at Francis's house. And Francis had all his friends. They had I guess, pretty sure Spielberg was there, and the people made Back to the Future. It was a whole big crowd all wanting to meet the celebrity Uri Geller, arriving in a Rolls Royce with me and Saul Paul Serac. Maybe Fred Allen Wolf. Yeah, Fred Allen Wolf was with us too. This is part we walk in, and Uri starts doing his thing. And that's where Jacques Vallée was there, and at my invitation. Right. And I introduced Jacques to Francis and all these people. And that's how Jacques connected with the people who made Close Encounters of the Third Kind. In fact, Jacques writes about it. He says, he talks about.
But Francis Ford Coppola didn't direct.
No, but his friend, all his Rat Pack, all these people, Spielberg and all kinds of people. So do
you think meeting Jacques, this wonderful French scientist interested in the highly strange.
Yeah, they were all into UFOs.
They were.
Spielberg's very into it. So that's how he got connected. And in fact, Jacques says that's how he wrote about it in his memoirs.
They met him and thought, what a great character.
They
Well,
wanted.
yeah, I don't know the exact history when
Right.
they already had the script. Or
But when
they
you
wrote
see
the
Close
script.
Encounters, it looks like Jacques Vallée.
It is.
Obviously-
Jacques Vallée is the technical advisor to the film.
Oh, he actually advised.
Yes, he's on the film. Yeah,
Right.
because of that meeting. Strangely enough, who's the main actor? Richie Dreyfuss.
Yeah, Richard
Richie
Dreyfuss.
Dreyfuss knew Tina as the kids. They
Oh,
knew each other.
Dreyfuss.
Yeah, Tina and Dreyfuss went to school together.
Oh, okay, sure.
It's funny. So which that's a funny coincidence. But
And of course, they got Francois Truffaut, the French director.
okay, now there's a strange thing.
Oh, tell us.
Now, okay, all that's being done. Okay,
Right.
now it's about maybe a year or two later, and I'm still up at Jones Street, opposite the Grace Cathedral, and this young Frenchman contacts me. I may have met him at Esalen. He just come from a guy named Jean-Reza Nadal.
Okay.
Jean Nadal, young guy, about early 30s, handsome Frenchman.
Yeah.
And he comes to my place, and I forget how we were connected, but it turns out he's a journalist with French National Radio, but he's also part of the French CIA.
Ah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and he's a close friend of Francois Truffaut. Okay,
Yes.
and they're working on this thing, and they're working on something. And they were doing like a video of the New Age movement or something like that.
Right.
And this is very strange. And he says to me, they uncovered a plot by something called the Union to assassinate Nelson Rockefeller. I
Oh.
remember I'm being paid by Lawrence Rockefeller, his brother.
Right.
Okay, and he tells me this, and he says Truffaut knows about it.
Wow.
This is pretty weird. This is pretty
Yeah.
strange. And then it's really strange. And we were talking about it. Because at this point, I kind of knew the CIA was involved. There was all kinds of stuff going on. Because there were also these guys from behind the Iron Curtain were involved, coming to some of these S things. There was kind of spooky stuff going on. And I remember when he left, he grabbed my hand, said, like we should, like hands on arms,
Right.
and he said, if something happens to me, he says,
Right.
it's not an accident. It's not, okay?
Right.
This is so strange. So, I'm not making this up.
No.
Okay, several months go by, a year goes by, and I have my French friend who Tina's met, Michel,
Okay.
who lives in Paris at the time.
Right.
Michel's father was a General Gore in the French. He was with de Gaulle in World War II. He ran operations in Algeria, stuff like that. And Michel himself was in the French Navy as reserve.
Yeah.
Was the French naval attaché in Rome, where I used to hang out with him in Rome, and the Palazzo Farnese and all this kind of stuff. All right, so, and Michel, I guess, somehow met John. Michel sends me a message that Jean Nadal died suddenly of bone cancer or something like that.
Right.
This is like the polonium poisoning,
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
And is buried in Père Lachaise Cemetery.
Right.
They come from an important family, apparently.
Right.
And and Michel was going to talk to his sister. This is the only, he said if something happens to me, it's not an accident.
Right.
And then, shortly after that, this is after the film was made, about a year or two later, Francois Truffaut dies suddenly,
Right.
who knew about allegedly the plot. And then Nelson Rockefeller dies of a heart attack
Right.
with some prostitute, apparently, shortly after it. So
Right.
all I could say, listen, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting.
I mean, correlation is not causation, they say, but there's all kinds of cloak and dagger stuff going on all the time in this whole
In
area.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, first of all, in the title refers directly to a classification system that Jacques Vallée
Yeah.
originated. The third kind meaning a close encounter.
And there's something else about Jacques Vallée.
Yeah. Right.
Remember I told you that when Werner Erhard invited me to San Francisco,
Right.
I met him at the Ritz Hotel. and
He's this
I went to
he's
Philadelphia.
A guru to the stars.
Yeah, going to the stars.
Right.
I went to Philadelphia and I stayed with Ira Einhorn.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Ira Einhorn was a close friend of Michael Murphy and Jacques Vallée, working with Jacques Vallée on the DARPA network, which became the internet.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, Vallée is part of that
That's
whole thing.
Vallée's,
Institute
right.
for the Future, all that stuff, the beginnings of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And Einhorn, of course, was involved in intelligence. He actually was working with the nephew of the Shah of Iran. He had all kinds of connections.
I can see.
All right?
Yeah.
Okay. And at one point, he was like Bernie Sanders. He was a left-wing. He had created Earth Day.
Oh, he created
The Earth Day.
Right.
And he was being paid by AT&T. He's an interesting character. And he was like, if there was going to be a presidential candidate, he was like being groomed as extreme left. That was,
Right.
sort of a Bernie Sanders type. Okay.
Right.
And he was very articulate and charismatic, and he a Jewish guy, and he ran for mayor of Philadelphia
Uh-huh.
against this guy Rizzo, who was the mafia boss.
Oh, right.
And Philly, very corrupt. It was run by the Italian mafia, and apparently there was a debate. Ira was kind of an asshole. Got on a debate with Rizzo on television and insulted Rizzo's mother. Somehow, Rizzo really got pissed. Sicilian mafia type. Okay.
That was a mistake.
All right, now here's the thing. And this is like I was there like 1974, and this is all happening like in 1978, and all these events are happening, and then Ira was also by the way, he was being supported by the heiress to the Seagram's liquor for. Oh, there you go, Tina. There we go. That's what she wants. But that's not what sold.
Okay.
All right. But but let's stay on track here. So any case, Ira was like a power on the way up.
Right.
Including he had big backing. Oh, and who's the senator? The guy who became senator for Massachusetts, Arlen Specter, was a buddy of his.
Okay.
Arlen Specter, who was then like a lawyer, big lawyer, became Senator Arlen Specter. Okay.
Right.
And he was part of the Democrat Party, the extreme left, Bernie Sanders wing, sort of the Democrat Party. And but then he had a girlfriend named Holly Maddox, who was kind of a wild new age, but who was also diabetic on insulin. Oh, I met her. I knew her, when but in any case, so what happened? Apparently, they found the dismembered body of Holly Maddox in a trunk, in a closet, not inside Ira's apartment, but I remember the apartment. I know exactly. I was there, years before. It was like in a corridor. There was like a storage unit.
Right.
The storage unit. So they tried to pin, and Ira was out of town. Who the hell knows? Any case, Ira was accused of killing his Holly Maddox in a fit of jealousy because she was leaving him, whatever. Who knows?
Right.
But Kit Green, the C.I.A. guy, was involved in the autopsy. So the whole thing's very strange. It was
C.I.A. medical officer.
Yeah. Yes. And it was a mummified body. There was no blood in there. The whole thing is very, very weird.
That's weird.
Okay. But what I think happened is probably that she started. She was manic depressive too on lithium, and she probably may have missed her insulin and just died of insulin shock. Okay. And that that he was framed. I think he was probably framed. He said he was framed.
Right.
Okay, but this is important. So in any case, it's like 1978, 79. Arlen Specter is Ira's defense lawyer. The Seagram heiress is financing his legal defense. It was like he would have beat this case.
Right.
Okay, because it was all circumstantial. There was no evidence that there was all circumstantial evidence. It's like a setup. Okay,
Right.
but he's also working on the DARPA, and it was Jacques Vallée.
Right.
And Ira is, even after he's been put on bail, he goes to Esalen for 3 weeks, where he's feted as a celebrity, you know, Michael Murphy and all these people, and Jacques Vallée. He's working with Jacques Vallée at the Institute for the Future.
Right.
And Ira calls me up in San Francisco. I'm here with Kim Burafano, and Ira says, "Can you meet me in what's that town? Bolinas.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you in Bolinas." So Kim Burafano and I get into the car. We meet Ira.
Yeah.
He's with a new girlfriend. They had just come from Big Sur in Esalen.
Right.
And he had just come from Jacques Vallée's place.
Right.
And he opens up the trunk of his car, and it's like a Vodafone,
a phone.
the phone that connects to the DARPA net.
Right.
The first modem.
Yeah.
Just a telephone modem. It's like 1978.
Right.
And he's talking. This is the beginning of the internet. He started talking about the internet. That he's working with Jacques Vallée on creating the DARPA net that's going to become internet.
Yeah.
Back then.
Right.
And then he says, but then he tells us, and Kim's with me, I have a witness to this, that he's not going to go back for trial. He's going to escape.
Okay.
I said, Ira, why? You're innocent, right? He says, yeah, I'm innocent, but they're going to whack me. They're going to kill me.
Right.
He feels like, and he knew what he was saying. Who knows what that if he stays, he's going to be killed. He's going to be killed.
Right.
So he's running away, even though, and that's what happened. It took him 20 years. 20 years later, they found him. In France, right around here somewhere in France. He was living in France, in this part of France. They found him, they put him in prison, and he died in prison a couple of years ago.
Can I focus your mind on the physics and close encounters?
Okay, but the point is, but the point is, he was working closely with Jacques Vallée at all this time.
Right.
So Jacques Vallée was involved.
And Jacques was the film's science advisor.
Yeah, but this happened already. This had already.
The film had been made.
Yeah, because this already happened because Francois Truffaut had already died. So they already made Close Encounters.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think of the science in Close Encounters? I mean,
I don't know. There's not much science in it. There's not much science.
But Hollywood touch. You've implied that with Back to the Future.
Well, that's a different movie, Back to the Future.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about how Hollywood deals with difficult science and makes it popular.
Hollywood doesn't. Yeah, but the Hollywood people are stupid when it comes to science. And science is not any good until Kip Thorne consulted Interstellar.
Right.
That's the only movie that has good science in it. The rest of it is crap.
Well,
it's wrong. It's not even stupid. It's silly.
But some of the concepts in, say, Back to the Future.
Yeah, well, that came from my book, Spacetime and Beyond. We had all that stuff.
Right.
They took stuff in Spacetime.
Writers and directors and studios do listen to physics.
Yeah, but they don't get it right. They water it down so much that they distort it. It becomes like a parody. It becomes a caricature. Oh, also the movies, the series Sliders was based on me. Because Torme, Mel Torme's son, Kim, said he used to come, slip into the Cafe Trieste, listening to me. And Kim knew who he was. It was Mel Torme's son. Also, Philip Dick used to come to the Trieste. And Philip Dick was a friend of Robert Anton Wilson, who writes, we were all part of that same era.
Right.
So some of my ideas in the 70s influenced Dick in Blade Runner and in,
of course,
those things. I mean, Kim remembers them coming, and Steve Schwartz, So we, North Beach was a creative, and also Herbert Gold writes a book Bohemia about that whole era. Talks about 3 or 4 pages about, and in Herbert Gold's book Bohemia, he talks about. In fact, you got to read that. You should get that book. It's on Kindle, I think, where he talks about Jack Sarfatti's theory of the future influencing the past. Back from the Future. It's in 1993. Simon Schuster, Herbert Gold, Bohemia, 4 pages of it. So there it is. We can prove it.
We'll look at that.
So there's lots of documentary evidence about what I'm talking about. It's not bullshit.
So San Francisco isn't LA, isn't Hollywood, but there's a...
No, San Francisco was the creative cauldron for Hollywood.
Right.
Everybody from Hollywood come up, they stay with, and they go to Enrico Banducci's,
Coppola's.
with Coppola and Marshall Nafee and Enrico and all these Julie Christie used to come to the Cafe Trieste. Nureyev. The hot spots then were Enrico's, and before that Enrico's there was, I forget what he called it. I forget what he called it. There's a famous place before Enrico's where all the stars. Woody Allen got started there. Barbara Streisand came there. I mean, they all, it was from the '60s on. Jacques Kerouac and
so this
Gregory Corso.
It inspired a lot of writers and
it was a small place, and the people from Hollywood, when they wanted creative inspiration, they would come, to North Beach. It's a big party, and this was before AIDS, so the gays were very creative, and it was a big party, 24/7 almost.
Oh, great! What a fantastic place!
And also a lot of wealthy people hung out there, because they wanted to be with the creative people, And the gay culture was very strong and very creative. It sort of everything collapsed when AIDS came. Things. It was like COVID. It was worse. That was, pretty bad.
Well, it picked on a particular demographic.
Yeah, but that demographic, they were the creative core of theater.
Yeah, I worked with them in media.
The same. Media,
Lost so many friends.
I had a lot of gay friends, who died.
Right. But I think thank you. That's really fascinating how your physics interfaces with creative writing and screenplay.
So I was also doing poetry too.
Of course you were.
So, like I envisioned myself as the new Faust. Writing. In fact, I wrote this thing called Hitler's Last Weapon, which is on television. Which was done by Pacifica Radio, which is like TBH. The Pacifica. It's professionally done. Hitler's Last Weapon.
It's a great title.
Yeah, well, you can see it on YouTube. You can hear it on YouTube. It was professionally produced. I wrote the script on 30 minutes when I was on. Someone gave me magic mushrooms. I went there in 30 minutes at Michael Murphy's house, which is on Telegraph Hill. There's a whole story there.
Sure, I love it. I love it. Thank you, Jack. All right.
So it was a hotbed of ideas of crazy physics, psychedelic drugs, rock stars,
and physicists, which is great.
I mean, David Kaiser does talk about it a little bit. Hippies Saved Physics, but the book to really read is Herbert Gold, who just died at 100 years old. Herbert Gold's book Bohemia, which is the whole history of Bohemian movement, starting from Czechoslovakia, Bohemia, going to Paris, and going to London, Soho, and Greenwich Village, and ending up in North Beach, San Francisco. It's the history of Bohemia by Herbert Gold. I love it. And he talks specifically about my theory of the future to the past.
Okay, thank you.
He calls me Rabbi Sarfatti.
You are Rabbi Sarfatti. Good. All right. Good. Covered. You press stop on the camera as I'm driving, or I can pull it.
You better stop it. I don't know what the stop is. Hang on.
I just wanted to save that file. Fuck up.